3 other women also came forward to make similar accusations. As we look at that podium and await Donald Trump, this is Outnumbered. I'm Sandra Smith. Here today, Harris Faulkner, radio talk show host Meghan McCain, Fox News contributor and founder of the Chris Kyle Frog Foundation, Taya Kyle, and today's hashtag One Lucky Guy. We welcome back the former Speaker of the House and 2012 presidential candidate Newt Gingrich. He is here today. His new book, Treason, another of the Speaker's gripping international thrillers. It is in bookstores now, and with all due respect, Mr. Speaker, you are outnumbered. Good to have you today.
It's great to be here, and Callista was thrilled because she loves the show. And
we love her, yeah.
Sometimes she'll come in and watch. You brought us some books, so we'll talk about that.
I should have brought you her new book about Ellis. It's called Hail to the Chief, and it's about Ellis introduces 4 to 8-year-olds. He's the elephant. Introduces 4 to 8-year-olds to all the American presidents.
She also has an amazing Instagram, your wife. I love her Instagram.
It's true.
It's
I think you and she swap compliments back and forth.
We do. She just, you guys always look like you're having the best time.
Yeah, we are. We're doing
drinking, having fun, going out. I love it.
Well, she was in the Basilica Choir, so we spent all of last week in Rome. The choir went as a group and sang in Rome.
Beautiful.
Such a romantic city, too.
Yeah.
All right, well, Speaker, there's so much going on today. We want to get right to it and get your thoughts on a lot of things happening as we await Donald Trump to speak in Florida, the ugly turn in this presidential race. Lawyers for the Republican nominee demanding the New York Times retract a report in which 2 women claim he touched them inappropriately. One alleged incident in 2005, the other happening more than 30 years ago. The candidate responding on social media saying, quote, "The phony story in the failing New York Times is a total fabrication, written by the same people as last discredited story on Woman Watch." And Trump's lawyer firing off the letter to the paper saying, quote, "Your article is reckless, defamatory, and constitutes libel per se. It is apparent from, among other things, the timing of the article, that it is nothing more than a politically motivated effort to defeat Mr. Trump's candidacy." And this fiery reaction from Trump campaign spokeswoman Katrina Pearson.
Just to answer the question on why would they come out, Don, because 15 minutes of fame. You attack Donald Trump and the media puts you on TV to tell your fake story just to get debunked a few days later. That's exactly what's happening here. Story did not happen.
Meantime, as you can imagine, Hillary Clinton's camp wasting no time pouncing, saying, quote, "This disturbing story sadly fits everything we know about the way Donald Trump has treated women. These reports suggest that he lied on the debate stage and that the disgusting behavior he bragged about in the tape is more than just words." Speaker, where are we at here? Without getting into these individual allegations, broadly speaking, how is Donald Trump handling this?
Well, look, I think that, and I have no idea what he will do because his natural reaction is to counterattack directly on that topic. I think if they would focus on the WikiLeaks and they would focus on the things we're learning about the secret Hillary Clinton, and they'd focus, for example, on the anti-Catholicism.
But he'll say the problem with that, Speaker, is that the media won't cover it.
That doesn't matter. If he says it, it gets covered by the act of him saying it. I mean, he has 27 million people on social media. He has an ability to reach you can't imagine, and he doesn't. You don't want to let the media set your agenda. I mean, if you let the New York Times define the next 27 days, Hillary get elected just by default.
Is the Trump camp worried right now?
I think they're furious, and I think they have to be worried at one level because there's this steady, first of all, avoidance of everything that hurts Hillary. And then this steady drumbeat of trying to find some way to beat Trump. But it's the most one-sided news media I can remember in my lifetime. It's amazing how much the New York Times, for example, is totally in the tank.
And Meghan, we were talking in the makeup room, and we were talking about this. Are they lacking a concerted effort to target women amidst all of these allegations where they seem to be losing women, and there are still a lot of undecided female voters that are out there? Is the Trump camp doing enough to speak directly to them?
Well, the first thing I want to say is there's such hypocrisy with the media right now that they're so offended at these accusations against Donald Trump, but they're not at the ones against Bill Clinton that have been for decades. So already there's a liberal hypocrisy with that. I hate the New York Times. They wrote a particularly horrible article about my mother when my father was running that is taught in journalism classes. They have an innate bias, so it's hard to believe them. The problem is there are also other publications talking about this. And the the narrative that I worry about being spun is you have to believe Juanita Broderick and Paula Jones, but you aren't going to be able to believe these accusers. 31% of the voting bloc is single women. It's a very important voting bloc.
Yeah.
My advice to you in the Trump campaign, get Ivanka out there, get Melania, get every woman that has a close relationship that really knows this man and can debunk this, get them on TV in as many shows as possible.
And that was my question for you, Speaker, is about the surrogates. I know that they have the Women for Trump. We've interviewed them on Fox News Channel, and they're led in part by Ivanka Trump. So you know that you have these strong women's voices, Kellyanne Conway. You've got these strong women's voices there that really could take this on. It is a lot to ask the public not to believe one set of victims when you've been saying and criticizing Hillary Clinton for not believing the victims and those who allege that her husband had done things as well, those women. So I'm just wondering about the surrogates, why they're not used more.
First of all, I can't answer that. I don't know why they aren't. I did see Kellyanne yesterday on CNN actually do, as you were saying, with case studies. She did a case study and taking on the interviewer and not yielding an inch and doing it all while smiling and just literally fought her way through the interview. I mean, it was amazing.
She's good at what she does.
She's very good. But the other point, and you guys may not agree with this, look, in just one example, Clinton goes to Brazil, and in a secret speech to a bank that pays her $225,000 and paid Bill $400, she says, "My dream is a pretty big word, my dream is of a Western Hemisphere with open borders." Now, that's 600 million people, including the MS-13 gangs in El Salvador, the drug cartels in Mexico, the cocaine dealers in Colombia. If my choice was to get in a fight over Bill's accusers versus Donald's accusers, or to say to the country, you really want a president who secretly tells the Brazilians she wants to open the American border for 600 million people?
Yeah.
I think you win the election on big things, not small things.
But he's not talking about that.
And that's a mistake on his part. I mean, I do not think it's smart for Donald Trump to get sucked into these kind of personality fights, and he doesn't seem to be able to resist it. But he would beat her badly if he would go to the big issues where she is so wrong. And where WikiLeaks, the secret Hillary is worse than the public Hillary, and the public Hillary was already on the edge of losing.
You talked about two Donald Trumps this morning on Fox Business.
Right. Like I think there's a big Donald Trump who's a historic figure. This is the guy who aroused the Republican Party, beat 16 other candidates, set a whole new series of national debates that people thought was impossible. But then every once in a while he reverts to this smaller figure who gets sucked into a fight and who says things that make no sense. And I just think that if he could discipline himself to stay big, he would win. He would win this election by a shocking margin.
There's more, and I'm coming to you first, Taya.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump is stepping up his attacks on Hillary Clinton over her husband's past. Trump's camp is telling Bloomberg that new women have come forward with accusations against Bill Clinton. And campaign CEO Steve Bannon reportedly laid out the team's strategy to his staffers Tuesday, saying, quote, "This has nothing to do with consensual sexual affairs and infidelities. This is Bill. We're going to turn him into Bill Cosby. He's a violent sexual predator who physically abuses women, who he assaults. And she takes the lead on intimidation of the victims," end quote. Team Trump is also launching a media blitz with some of the former president's accusers appearing together on Hannity tonight. But Hillary Clinton dismissed the strategy as desperate. Watch.
His campaign said today that they're going to use a, quote, scorched earth strategy for the remaining 4 weeks of this race. Now that just shows how desperate they are. That's all they have left. Pure negativity, pessimism, and we're not going to let Donald Trump get away with it, are we? I will stand up and defend every single person in this country from the insults and the disrespect that we hear from him.
Just to toss in a fact, she did begin a conversation at the end of the first debate with the beauty queen Alicia Machado and tapes that had been unearthed. So to say that it's not inbound, she has gone there too.
Right. And I think, unfortunately, there are so many people who aren't going to dig deeper, that what they're going to do is they're going to take what the candidate says and they're going to use it. That's going to be their one line or their rhetoric that they use in conversations with other people. So as a candidate, all you have to do is give people something that they can say to comfort themselves. They want to support you. And if you give them the one line or two lines that they can use, whether it's true or not, then they're good. That's like the sheeple part of the population, you know, the sheep that are people. And there's a large percentage of them that are following them. So I feel like we can say sit here and say it's so hypocritical, and it is, and it's wrong, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's illogical, it's not rational, all of those things. But strategically, it works. All she has to do is give them the line that they want to hear, and then it turns into votes.
Speaker, this strategy, though, at this point, I mean, less than 30 days out from Election Day, I have people come up to me all the time, I'm sure you do too, Harris, that say, enough with the personal attacks. They want to hear about the issues. They're exhausted from hearing.
Talking about
Why
the
is this such a big strategy for Trump right now?
I don't think it is a good strategy. I think he has so much material in WikiLeaks that he could spend every day on a new scandal that's a serious public policy scandal. All the speeches. I mean, somebody has to go to Elizabeth Warren and say, have you read all of the leaks about her speeches to Wall Street where she sucks up the Wall Street? I mean, is this the candidate you can be for? Somebody ought to be going to the Sanders people because one of the Clinton staffers describes them as communists. I mean, the contempt and the venom in the WikiLeaks is stunning. As I said a while ago, and the Wall Street Journal picked up on it this morning in a very good editorial, you have clear anti-Catholic bigotry.
Yes.
And if that had been done to Muslims or to gays, there'd be an outrageous demand from the New York Times to fire the people. But since it's only anti-Christian, that's the one acceptable bigotry in the left.
I gave the example that yesterday was Yom Kippur, and had it been another faith, I mean, it really, I don't know, maybe not. The response to all of this. So going forward, is he listening to you?
No.
Is he listening to anyone?
Watch what's happening.
Right.
I mean, they've designed a strategy of being very direct to see if they can destroy Bill Clinton more than the New York Times can destroy Donald Trump. Now, I think for the country at large, that's a tragedy because Donald Trump, on every major issue, represents a majority of the American people. And if he would draw the contrast with Hillary on the big issues, he would crush her. I mean, she couldn't survive if he went to the big issues.
It sounds like politics 101. I mean, Megan, you have seen your father run time and time again, and you know when it gets personal. How do you pivot? And who does he listen to?
I mean, I've said this before on the show. I'll say it again. We have chemical weapons being used against our soldiers in Iraq right now. Focus on, do you know why ISIS arose? Because Hillary was a part of this administration that let us pull out of Iraq. Let's talk about the economy. Let's talk about everything the American public is striving to talk about, but this stuff about sex and women and all these accusations, it is a slow drip to the bottom. And I'm sorry, the women's vote, whether I like it, you like it, apparently hashtag repeal the 19th Amendment was trending on Twitter last night.
Yes.
It's a big demographic, and they're going to come out and they're going to vote, and the Republican Party can't afford to look anti-woman right now.
So,
can I build on this one thing? Because you said something that triggered my thought about Iraq. You have an administration, which Hillary Clinton was part of, which is paying the Iranians $150 billion, while the Iranians are supporting and supplying the rebels in Yemen, who twice this week fired on American destroyers.
Yes.
Now, the idea that your tax money is going to Iran to go to Yemen to shoot at our own ships, that to me is an issue that's worth developing, that probably 95% of the American people would say, that's really stupid. And let Hillary try to defend it.
Yeah. And then you couple with that this month of October, which is the window climatically, I believe, for us to move in and retake Mosul and what that looks like. We're surrounded by people. Our troops are surrounded by people who are not necessarily on our side. We've got Shia troops on the ground. They have not promised that they won't be shooting at our men and women. So, I mean, these are issues that are not being talked about. We're trying to retake a city we already took, and it's going to look...
And we clearly, by the way, have boots on the ground, so this whole fantasy that Obama had...
People are in the boots, so yes.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So Taya, real quickly, I just wanted to get your thoughts on how do you get the candidate to listen?
Well, see, so this is what I think is an issue, is that Donald Trump didn't listen in the beginning, and it made him very successful, right? Because he was the person that did it his own way, it got him to where he is. So I think if I was to try to climb inside his head, might be a little scary, but if I tried to get in there, I think he's got an issue, right? Because he knows that it got him this far,
right,
disregarding what his strategist told him. But now he's got to go, should I keep disregarding them? Is it going to keep being beneficial or not? And the truth is no. At this point, it probably isn't. So he's got this fine line. He's already appealing to the population that loves the fight in him and loves the person that says, I don't care what you think. But he's got them, and he's probably going to keep them anyway. So now he does need to just tone it back a little and go back to the issues, like you said, and national security is a huge
Going back to Megan's suggestion about how to put those personal attacks on his past to rest, bring back out your family, your daughter, your daughter-in-law. Show that him playing with his grandchildren. I mean, there's some strategies there that we could volunteer.
All right. Well, smartest person on the couch says he's not listening to him.
No. I think she was the smartest person on the couch. Wow. That's pretty good.
A growing firestorm now over leaked emails appearing to show Clinton campaign official Jennifer Palmieri and other top Hillary Clinton allies mocking Catholics and evangelicals. We got into it a little bit. We're going to go deeper. Now, Palmieri's response as the Trump campaign is stepping up for calls to have those involved fired. And just 6 days away, our own Chris Wallace, set to make history, hosting the final debate showdown between the two presidential candidates, the first Fox News general election presidential candidate moderator ever from Fox News. That's the history. Now, with the topics revealed, we'll ask former Speaker Gingrich who will have the upper hand. Stay close.
Donald Trump's campaign is calling on Hillary Clinton to fire top advisors over hacked emails appearing to show them mocking Catholics. In a 2011 email exchange, campaign spokeswoman Jennifer Palmieri appearing to write, quote, "Many other conservatives are Catholic because they think it is the most socially acceptable, politically conservative religion. Their rich friends wouldn't understand if they became evangelicals." But now Palmieri denies any wrongdoing.
I'm a Catholic. I don't recognize that email that we saw. And this whole effort is led by the Russians. The Russians, ones that orchestrated this hack. We believe, as noted by the statement from the Director of National Intelligence, that they're also behind the timing and manner of the leaks. And we are not going to do any more to comment or aid their efforts.
But Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway says the Clinton team emails expose its hostility to Catholics.
A hostility towards religious liberty and to the beliefs that we hold as Catholics should not go unnoticed or unpunished. We call on Hillary Clinton to apologize and to fire the staff who have engaged in this vicious anti-Catholic bigotry.
Trump himself echoing that message at a rally in Florida yesterday. Watch.
The new emails also show members of the Clinton team viciously attacking Catholics and evangelicals. Did you see that? It's just the latest evidence of the hatred that the Clinton campaign has for everyday faithful Americans. If you're a person of faith, I think you're going to vote for Donald Trump.
All right, so he's making his case there. Do you think Palmieri should be out as far as working on the campaign for Hillary?
Ask yourself a simple question. If they had said exactly the same things, and some of the things, and there are a lot more stuff there. If they had said exactly the same things about Muslims, they'd have been fired that morning. If they said the same things about gays and lesbians, they'd been fired that morning. The truth is, on the American left, the one bigotry that is acceptable is against Christians. And that's why you'll notice they don't go out and find Christian refugees to bring to the U.S. Wow. I mean, there's a whole bias here, which also tells you what Hillary's Supreme Court justices will be like. These will be anti-religious bigots who are determined to impose left-wing values using the power of the government.
So you just threaded the needle right along that issue that many in your party are saying that Donald Trump should focus on, those U.S. Supreme Court picks. I'm not hearing him do that.
And he should. I mean, if you look at how radically Clinton will change America, because you're talking now about 40 years, not 4. I mean, if she picks 3 or 4 judges, she will permanently move the justices, she'll permanently move us to the left. But also, there's a commission now in Massachusetts, which is on transgender issues. And the commission has said that one of the things they want to explore is whether or not churches are going to be required to change the way in which they address people. For example, is saying, our Father, by definition, an inappropriate term. Now, the idea that you have a government agency beginning to go down a trail of dictating in the universities, dictating in the media, dictating. This is totalitarianism on the left.
This is something you talk a lot about, Megan.
Yeah, and can I say something other than obviously this being abhorrent, the fact that they're talking about Catholics this way? Bill Clinton was saying something derogatory about, quote, rednecks on the campaign trail. There is a distinct bigotry against a certain segment of the population that is socially acceptable in the media and with people on the left. You're talking about hardworking, God-fearing Americans who are flocking to Trump for this reason because they know that the Clintons and the Obamas and everyone on the left sees them this way and belittles them and looks down on them and their way of life and their values.
So, Taya, will this even hurt Hillary at all? Obviously, Trump is using this in his rally yesterday. He made today. He has yet to start speaking. Will this hurt her?
Well, I think what the speaker said is absolutely true. Probably that's just an acceptable bigotry, and people would write it off and say, oh, they're not really doing anything against Catholics or whatever. But I think that part of the problem is that this campaign, it's a machine, right? They're campaign managers. They've been doing it a long time, probably before she officially announced that she was running. And so I think that they're not looking at people, like people of faith. They're looking at people that are getting in the way of their votes. And so I don't think they're actually looking at them as human beings who are
as individuals.
Faithful. Right. They're just saying those people are getting in the way of our votes, and we hate them because they're getting in the way. Can I just add to this, though, that what you said about Donald Trump and linking to the Supreme Court justices, that's huge. And I think he could find that happy balance of hitting back, doing the counterpunch, and then just doing a small link to the Supreme Court justices like you did here. Yeah. That way he could be himself and counterpunch. Yes, thread the needle.
Yeah, but it's why he should have been VP. And you know that I was sitting here the whole time advocating.
Big fan,
yes, biggest mistake he made.
But I want to ask a really basic campaign question, because what Taya's bringing up, I mean,
I'm still kind of.
Who wants to enjoy the moment?
I was upset. I was like, this is such a huge mistake. And look what he's doing. Honestly, this is exactly the messaging the Trump campaign should be doing right now. So here's my question: what
is going on behind the scenes that you know right now that might be a reason why these needles are not being threaded the way they should?
I honestly don't know. I'm mystified. I can't make sense out of it.
I mean, is this an indication of this being kind of a penalty for being less traditional?
No, look. Yeah. Trump, I think somebody said it a while ago very well. I think you mentioned it. Trump is a unique character. He's never run for anything before. He comes out of nowhere. He beat 16 people, of whom 7 or 8 were actually very good candidates. He got the most votes of any Republican in history. And so he's standing there, he's going, let me get this straight. I'm a billionaire, you're not. I got 14 million votes, you didn't. I beat all those other guys that had all those consultants and had all that money. Now tell me again why I'm listening to you. Yeah. And I think there's a certain challenge here, which you can understand at a human level, but it makes it harder for him to then put together a candidate. He's at the edge of winning a historic victory. I mean, he could beat Hillary by a margin that would be startling. Wow. But to do that, he's got to focus in a way he's not used to doing.
Only a few days left, and the countdown is on for one big day coming up, the third and final presidential debate. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump will face off next Wednesday in the first general election showdown ever moderated by a Fox News anchor. What the topics are going to be and what each candidate needs to do. And a Fox News exclusive, 2 people closely involved in the year-long probe into Hillary Clinton's emails are speaking out, saying the decision to let the former Secretary of State off the hook has roiled the FBI and the Justice Department. What this could mean for her White House race.
Fox News Alert, as we do a live look-in now on Donald Trump, who's hosting a small business roundtable. This is in West Palm Beach. And what we are expecting him to do is right away go from that meeting to what you see on the right side of your screen, and that is a rally that's set up there. And at the lectern right now, you see former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. So you'll see Donald Trump go from one to the other when he pops up and he takes the stage to speak. We will take it live on Fox News. The final presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump is now just 6 days away. Fox News Sunday host Chris Wallace will be moderating, the first Fox News anchor ever to moderate such a debate. And he's announced the topics. They are, all 6 of them, slated to get each 15 minutes. Here the topics are, barring any major news developments, that is, debt and entitlements for number 1, immigration, the economy, the Supreme Court, foreign hotspots, and fitness to be president. Taya, she gave that a
Sorry.
What do you like about it?
No, I was just surprised by the fitness to be president. I don't know. I didn't know if that was like a physical thing about, like, they've shown Hillary coughing and passing out and stuff like that, or if it meant like I'm mentally fit to be president. I have the experience. I wasn't sure. My reaction was like, oh, I thought they were doing like a health thing. I don't know.
Okay. What do you think?
Be both.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It could be, right? Yeah. What do you think about the topics?
I like the topics. I mean, whether or not they stay on topic, I don't know. I'm more excited to not have a moderator that had Obama at their wedding, Martha Raddatz, and to not honestly have someone that I know their political ideology. I know I seem like I'm like totally like sucking up to Newt right now, but honestly, one of the best debate history moments is when you called out John King on his liberal questions and his bias, and John King doesn't have a show anymore, so clearly that had an impact. And I think that Chris Wallace is going to do a great job. I don't know his politics. He's certainly an incredible journalist, and I think he's going to be able to keep them on track.
Look,
and
to quote Chris, he said, if people say it was a great debate and I don't remember you being there, I will have done my job. And people are ready to just listen to the two candidates work it out up on that stage for the final time.
Now, let me say in John King's defense, he has a Sunday morning show.
Oh, I'm sorry.
About the news.
I don't watch
Wow. Anything ever again, and you don't hire Meghan McCain, I'm going to wonder what happened.
I know, this is just great.
I mean, I'm such a political junkie, too. I mean, obviously, so.
Well, let me say, because I've fought with Chris Wallace during the debates. I've done his show a lot of times. I think he will approach this with consummate professionalism.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think he'll use a tone that'll be a lot more respectful of both of them than you've seen out of a couple of the I mean, I really thought Trump now, it was 2-on-1 in the first debate, 3-on-1 in the second debate. My hunch is that Chris watched all that and didn't think it was very good. They didn't think it was right. And he comes out of a family with a great tradition of real news as opposed to political sellout. So my guess is, and I'm certainly looking forward, because I can't, the tension that's building here.
I know.
I mean, you talk about these two people, maybe Las Vegas is the right place to have the
all on the table. All right, so I want to go maybe tick down a couple of these topics. Debt and entitlements actually has not gotten much talk at any of the debates. And what perspective do you think Donald Trump will hit from there?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. We're $20 trillion in debt. The Federal Reserve's followed a policy which is crippling seniors because there's no interest rates and sending the wrong signals to the market. And students are graduating with huge amounts of indebtedness. And I think Trump is actually giving a speech on student debt sometime this week because it's such a big issue. So I think he'll approach it from the standpoint of we have to get economic growth, control spending, and balance the budget. Which is a topic I'm particularly fond of.
And on the flip, Hillary Clinton?
I think she'll say that we've had a remarkable recovery, things are getting better. Eventually we'll take care of the debt, but who cares?
Let's assume Donald Trump's watching right now, Speaker, and you are going to give him some advice before he gets on that stage. What would you say he needs to do perhaps differently than the previous two debates?
Look, I thought he did very well the other night. The first debate he was not nearly as prepared. But if he improves as much between last Sunday and next Wednesday, as he did between the first debate and the second debate, he will not only do fine, but my point to him would be, on every single occasion, go to WikiLeaks, go to Clinton's own words.
It's not the debate performance that's the problem. It's the spin after. It's the news stories after. He did a great job. He put her in her place at the last one, despite having these two moderators where I agreed that I thought it was 3 against 1. It's the surrogates and everything after. It's keeping the narrative in the positive, going the positive direction from his performance.
All right. Good to have you. Glad you're here. And as we have been telling you, Fox News' Chris Wallace, widely regarded as the best questioner in the business. And he'll be moderating the all-important final debate between Trump and Clinton. It will be held October 19th at 9 p.m. Eastern in Las Vegas. The best place to watch first Fox-moderated debate is on Fox News Channel FNC for the cool kids. Meanwhile, second thoughts. The Republican members of Congress returning now to Donald Trump's corner after calling him to quit the race over that video of his crude remarks about women. Will more Republicans get back on the Trump train?
It looks like some Republicans are getting back in line behind Donald Trump. After calling for him to quit once his lewd remarks about women were made public, 4 GOP members of Congress who had made headlines for demanding that Trump drop out now appear to be reversing course, saying they will vote for their party's nominee. They include Senators John Thune of South Dakota and Deb Fischer of Nebraska, and in the House, New Jersey's Scott Garrett and Alabama's Bradley Byrne. Also back in the Trump fold, Nebraska Governor Pete Ricketts, even though he canceled a pair of fundraisers scheduled earlier this week with the VP nominee Mike Pence. Of course, we should note these folks got back on the Trump train before last night's reports of 5 women accusing Trump of unwanted advances. I'll go to you first. I mean, I was actually surprised Thune flip-flopped so quickly. Do you think this makes a difference to the campaign? Bigger issues now?
Well, look, I think it's helpful to have them all back on board, and I think remembering that every Republican's goal should be to defeat Hillary Clinton. And if in that process you elect Donald Trump, they don't have to run around the country and defend Trump. That's Trump's job. But they do have to run around the country and beat Hillary Clinton, because she will be a nightmare If they keep the House and Senate, and they're dealing with 4 years of Hillary Clinton, it'll be a nightmare. She will be far more corrupt than Obama. She'll be far more dishonest than Obama. She'll be harder to control than Obama. And frankly, they haven't done a very good job of controlling Obama. So from a legislative standpoint, if I was still in office, I'd want to do everything I could for the next 27 days to beat Hillary Clinton.
Sandra, isn't this why people hate politicians, though? That they're just like
I don't hate
with
politicians.
a lot of the American public do. They have a very low approval rating.
That's true.
Just flipping with the weather vane. I mean, now is someone going to unendorse again because of today's revelation?
No, I think what happens is when you get the elite media going in a lynch mob phase, and they run the same nasty tape, which nobody can defend, every hour for 3 straight days, some of the people panic. And because they suddenly think that's reality. Well, it's not reality. This is a fight. And once you get used to the idea you're fighting, you go, okay, they got that round, we'll get the next round. But that also requires that the Republicans get much better at figuring out how, for example, to answer every question about Trump with WikiLeaks and Hillary. And that requires a level of training. Republicans don't like to fight. I thought it was very revealing at the debate the other night when Trump was asked what he could say positively about Hillary. He said, you're a real fighter and you don't quit, and I admire that. And I think that's something every Republican ought to look at that and realize, if you want to be in this business, you had better be prepared to fight, because you're trying to change the most powerful country in the world, and the other team was willing to fight to stop you.
So, Speaker, you have put your best out there to try to make sure that you're getting Republicans on board, all Republicans on board. Why do you think you haven't been more successful at getting them behind Trump?
Well, I mean, a couple things. One is when Trump has made some mistakes that made it easy for them to not be rushing in. Part of it is he's a genuine revolutionary figure. I mean, if you represent the old guard, and you're the people who got us into Iraq and got us into Afghanistan, and Trump comes along and says, after 15 years, we're not winning, there are a lot of folks in Washington who made a living out of what they were doing. There's also, Trump is going to represent a profound change in who the lobbyists and who the appointees are. And so there are a lot of folks kind of gone, ooh, maybe I'll be better off with Hillary Clinton.
But they're also making it very clear that many of the establishment have not been with him from the beginning. They gave some rather disingenuous endorsements. And he has said very plainly, especially in the last 36 hours, I don't need you.
Right.
So if he makes it to Washington, that he might continue on. That's got to be scary for some of them.
It's going to be, look, I think it's going to be a wild and woolly ride. You'll have plenty
they
to talk.
charge extra for that at Disney World, by the way.
You will have lots to talk about over the next few years.
Wow. Yeah. I think people, they find it hard to endorse him when he makes missteps like that. And I think, like you said, people, maybe that's the environment that they have to fight. But I still think there are people like me who wish that it could be a little bit more dignified and a little more civil. And maybe they have a hard time reconciling that right now.
All right, new questions over whether the FBI's reputation has been damaged after a source tells Fox agents and attorneys working the Hillary Clinton email investigation unanimously wanted to pursue charges, but that it was a, quote, top-down decision not to do so. We'll have more on those revelations.
Backlash inside the FBI and Department of Justice over the decision to let Hillary Clinton off the hook for mishandling classified information. That's according to Fox News' Adam Housley, who spoke exclusively with two people closely involved in the year-long probe, who are upset with FBI Director James Comey's decision not to recommend charges. One source saying those working the case unanimously believed Hillary should face charges, saying, quote, no trial-level attorney agreed, no agent working the case agreed with the decision not to prosecute. It was a top-down decision. But a high-ranking FBI official also tells Fox News that while it might not have been a unanimous decision, the vast majority felt she should have been prosecuted and, at the very least, had her security clearance yanked. And we go back to James Comey's words. He says politics did not have anything to do with the decision that was ultimately made. Speaker, your thoughts? Every lawyer I've talked to, when they look at the totality of agreeing to immunity, agreeing to destroy the computers, when you go down the list, Comey's performance is the most disgraceful performance by an FBI director in the history of the Bureau. And I think the next president has to appoint an independent counsel, starting with what was the conversation on the airplane between the Attorney General and President Clinton? Wow. And I mean, 39 minutes of sitting there talking.
A week before, they interview his wife. And then the interview with his wife where they allow her staff to come in, even though they're not, in fact, her attorneys. And they don't take any records. There's no recording. And she, for a woman who goes out and does as good a job as she does, to say 39 times, I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah. And nobody thinks there's something phony going down. This is the kind of corruption that has led people to decide that they would rather take the risk of Donald Trump than continue down the road of corruption that Clinton represents.
It's hard to have a good feeling about what we know about what went down there, Megan.
I'm not surprised. It's not like, I mean, congratulations to Adam Housley for getting people on the record talking about this, but I think this is something we already knew. I don't feel bad for James Comey anymore. I think at a certain point he's going to have to step down because it is just so egregious. The corruption is so horrible. You're talking about everybody in the FBI except you, and obviously it's done for political purposes because this woman could be the next president of the United States. I agree with Speaker Gingrich. It's why people hate the Clintons so much, and it's why there's so much distrust, because they live by a different set of standards and laws than the average American does.
To now even have the thought, Harris, that politics was involved with the director of the FBI's decision here, it makes you wonder what the reputation of the FBI will be from here on out.
I think it's even deeper than that for Comey, because he promised us that it wouldn't be. He sat in that hearing on Capitol Hill and he said it wasn't going to be like that. That would mean he lied.
Yeah.
So it's farther than just, do we want to look at the reputation of the FBI? Do we want to take a deeper look at this particular individual who promised to have our backs as the American people and get to the bottom of this and make a real straight case based on the evidence for possible look at by the DOJ? If he didn't do his job, it wasn't just that he was bad at it, then it was he was dishonest. And those are the questions that are going to come about.
Well, and you need an independent counsel, because to what extent?
Because
to what extent is he doing it? Because the president and the attorney general are instructing him to do it. And what were the memos? What were the meetings? Who was in the room?
And Speaker, one of the things that I think is frustrating for the American people is that it gets hinged to politics. This should be irrespective of that. This should look at whether or not we were served as the American public.
Well, remember, in Watergate, you had an attorney general and you had a deputy attorney general and you had an FBI director who all resigned because they would not do what the president asked them to do. In this case, everybody caved.
All right. Taya, last word.
Okay, to tag on to what you're saying, I don't even think that it's maybe as much politics as it is very personal. His job is on the line, but more than that, if you felt like, well, I think I can just do my job and be untouched, and then you see that the Attorney General can get on a plane in broad daylight with Bill Clinton, then all of a sudden, personally, you're going to look at it and say, you know what? I can be touched. These people get away with absolutely everything. I'm out. Like, that's too deep for me. I think that's a good possibility.
All right.
All right, so you know what you have to do. For the first time ever, a Fox News anchor will be moderating a general election presidential debate. So you got to watch. 6 days from today, our friend and colleague Chris Wallace, widely regarded as the best questioner in the business, will be moderating the all-important final debate between Trump and Clinton. It will be held next Wednesday, October 19th, 9 p.m. Eastern. Pop your corn. The best place to watch the first Fox-moderated debate. Fox News Channel. Also awesome. I love this genre. It's called Treason. And how did you come up with this book?
Well, we looked at the Soviet penetration of the U.S. government in the 40s and said, what if ISIS had 2 or 3 people at the FBI, Department of Homeland Security,